All right, guys, welcome back to a Sunday Fun Day special edition rant with Mr. Mark Anthony Cox. Sorry, I don't know why I keep calling you Anthony all the time, bro. It's just that I have a
my
middle
name has been chopped up so many times. I'm saying Mr. Anthony is what people who like my employees, especially in like the construction industry, will call me Mr. Anthony. I'm like, it's Mark Anthony Cox, but hey, no need to correct. My mom, if she's really mad, she'll just call me So I've learned the people who know me the least probably say all of my name, and people who know me the most say.
Well, you know
as
what's
little
funny
as
is
possible.
it's becoming a common trend that when I have people over, I butcher their names.
Oh, nice. So
You know,
this is
right
actually
off
just
the
an
rip.
introduction.
It's just like, and it's like, oh man, this is why people hate me and don't come on my show because I can't even pronounce
Welcome to
their
the
names
space.
right. Yeah, and so I'm your host, Marcus Moore. I may or may not pronounce your name right at the beginning of every show, but you know, it's the journey that we're gonna take.
Yeah, don't be offended.
You know, so I'm tired of getting bullied. You know, by all the leftists out there. Every time you say something wrong, and now I just disrespected you with saying your name wrong. So I'm like, oh, I'm sorry about that, bro. But you know, maybe it's a
we have to
speech
be able to
impediment.
measure intention, you know, and
Yes,
that's
sir.
a big thing. People come into any space, whether they be of the left or right hand. I guess I just look deeper than that because political affiliation, it's flimsy. I'll just be honest. You can register as a voter being independent, what do you call it, undeclared, nonpartisan, Republican, Democrat, but that doesn't tell me everything I need to know if I actually want to get to know you. It's just surface level stuff.
Yeah, you gotta have a conversation. You gotta have a dialogue with somebody. And you get a lot of dialogue running for school board. I'm sure you talk to people every day.
Have you seen the comment section?
So I actually had to go pull up my wife's phone last night and get on Facebook because if I pull up Facebook on any account anywhere with my IP address, it's like, bam, boom, don't let this man talk.
This man's been shadow banned.
Bad, hard. I make posts. I come back as soon as I send it, suspended. You know, so obviously they don't like what I have to say because, you know, I speak a lot of truth. You know, I don't hide my facts, you know, facts over feelings, change my mind, prove me wrong. That's sort of
Wouldn't that be nice?
How I run my life, you know. I started this podcast up because I was angry that people weren't able to meet and greet and talk to people that were running for elected positions across the board. Okay. And it's not that they can't meet and greet you. It's that any candidate that wants to be an elected official should be able to jump on a camera and have a conversation that's a recorded, transparent, accountable situation.
Now, is this with a teleprompter or without a teleprompter?
Yeah. You can sort of tell some people script some stuff.
Right.
You know,
don't wear glasses, y'all. We see your computer screens.
don't wear glasses. I think it's more organic when we just have a real conversation. You know, these interviews where people are like, I got these set questions to ask you because this is a professional. I'm a professional media host. Right. Okay. Yes, sir. And let's go through and question number 1 for you, sir. I'm like, all right, cool. I want to get to know Mr. Mark Anthony Cox. You know, like you're running for school board, Anchorage Seat B. Ballots come out March 11th.
March 11th.
We vote April 1st in person. So you can either mail your ballot in before then, or you can go in to vote April 1st.
That's not what I know of it. It's a mail-in ballot exclusively.
Yeah, exclusively.
Yeah. So April 1st is just like your last day to submit the ballot.
So your ballot has to be in the end of April. If you postmark it after April 1st, it's not going to.
Yes. And so you go to drop boxes. You know, some people might think I'm gonna hold on to my ballot. I got it March 11th, and then on April 1st, I'll walk it to the box and then drop it. That's
you can do that too. Yeah, I thought. Man, I really thought we had a day like places you could go vote April 1st. We don't have any open voting for April 1st.
I've heard, and I can't confirm, which is why I wouldn't want to say this, is that you could go to the, the area where the candidates register and pick up a ballot. But I don't know that for sure. So
I'm gonna have to double check that, and I'll put some information in the comment section
because they called it a mail-in ballot election anyway, so it's going to be mail-in ballot. Yeah.
I know you get a mail-in ballot, you got to mail it back in. Most people don't.
Right, which is why you can go to the drop box to drop it. So so it's not mail-in like you have to put a stamp on it and put in your mailbox for it to be sent. It's more so you were mailed the ballot, you fill it out, the same little envelope
costs you nothing.
and then you go to a drop box, which will be everywhere, and then drop your ballot there.
So I'm gonna drop off drop boxes. I'm gonna
Mhm.
drop off times and dates on when you should be receiving your ballot, and I'm gonna hook the link to the election site for the Muni.
Yeah, that's
at the
where all
bottom
that
of
information is. Yeah.
all the information's there. Uh, Obviously, I just mail in my ballot. I gotta trust the system that you don't trust anyways. To get your vote out there. You can track your ballot though.
Yeah.
I know that if you mail it in, you can actually track it. There's a tracking thing, little website or app that you can download. I'll be putting that in the bottom of the comment section too, so that way you guys can vote for Mark Anthony Cox if you like what he stands for. Let's
Yeah.
get into figuring out what
What do
you're
you
about.
stand for?
And this is your third run on fourth run.
Fourth run for
All
school
right,
board.
fourth run on school board, because this is not an easy job to get into, especially in Anchorage.
Man, as I think about all those other times I ran, when I was running, I learned a lot and I was expressing it. But this journey, I guess I would say, has become one where I've been learning how to talk to the city. It's not that ideas have changed much. It's not that um, that I'm even receiving different type of support. It's kind of like the same people and some additional ones, coming along this side. But I'm just able to communicate it so much better than I've ever been. So that's, I think, something that people maybe with low self-esteem aren't willing to do is fail in public. And so losing an election may be considered failure to some people. And it just depends on how you lose. I mean, if you lost due to what do you call it? Illegal reasons, people, all the things that you hear about candidates doing the wrong thing, then yeah, it's going to definitely be a stain on your reputation. But if you lost, given it the best that you could, ran a campaign with integrity, and you just lost because the other person garnered more votes, so be it. A lot of people have things to say when it comes to the system, i.e., depositing a ballot versus doing what we used to do, where it was like, you went to the church or whoever was hosting, wherever you would vote. But I'm willing to trust it because to me, it's a cop out without more factual proof that there is indeed some weird stuff happening in those offices. I need way more proof in order to see that happen. So, we're going to run a really solid campaign. Last time around, we garnered what was it, 46, maybe 47% of the vote. So now we're just pushing for that additional 3-4% to get us to the finish line. That could be 3,000, 5,000 people. And with how many people come to Anchorage and how many more people are becoming aware and asking questions, it's very possible we could push it to the finish line and win. And upon that, there's just it's like a whole journey afterwards once you get to that point.
Yeah, that's why I think it's important for us to have a conversation with breaking down candidates, and bringing light to that, because we're uh, already in the what's today, the 10th, ninth.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the 9th. We're 2 days away from getting ballots sent out. So
Yeah.
technically, in 48 hours, you could get a ballot in the mail, fill it out, okay, and send it back in. Okay,
Yeah.
in 48 hours. And they are not doing anything in the city, okay, to promote advertising the school board. Okay?
I wonder why. We'll talk about that, I'm sure.
To assembly members,
Yeah.
okay? They're not even pushing bonds or ballot measures. And we have $110 million that they're going to increase in bonds and tax levies on the city of Anchorage this year.
Say nothing.
They did $125 million last year. We're $480 million in debt with the city.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those bonds is a $63 million bond to repair schools and facilities. Okay.
Bonds are funny, and I'm sure we'll talk about that too.
It blows my mind because the state is passing the BSA allowance, or in the process of voting on that next week, I think is coming up, on increasing the BSA allowance to like $1,000, right?
Yeah,
it's going to put like $400 million or $600 million added onto the budget, put them in debt, basically, that much more money. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then the city's asking for $63 million in taxes, right? So all this money is coming from the taxpayers, and we're last
including renters, which
we're last in education.
Yeah.
49th out of 50. We're 40th country out of 40 countries worldwide, and then we're 49th in the 49th. Time for change in leadership.
Leadership.
So how would you go about that?
Well,
I mean, our leadership is bad in my opinion.
I'll say it's inactive.
Inactive.
I don't. I want to use as many specific words as possible because, especially in the political spaces, people are hanging on to every word, hoping that you say something that's false. So I'd like to stick factually and say our leadership has been inactive. And what do I mean by that? For example, they were supposed to close down 5 schools, but instead did 2. Next, you know, we have 4 charter schools looking for a building, and if leadership, if they had did what they said they were, which they were advised to do, which was close down the 5 schools in order to try to get as minimal of a deficit as possible, then these 4 charter schools wouldn't have to fought each other. And that was Rilke, that was Stream, that was Highland, and that was Alaskan Native Cultural Charter School. That's what happens when
schools. Those charter schools that you just mentioned, aren't those also the learning immersion schools like Russian and German?
So there's immersion and then there's open enrollment types of charter schools. So charter schools, what I like to say is what I like about them as opposed to the average neighborhood school is a parent or parents and community members come together and essentially create their own school. And create their own school because, like, for example, we believe that we should immerse our students in German and also give them, you know, half of the day in German, the other half in English, teach them everything they need to. And we want to do it this way with this curriculum. And they go to the school board, essentially petition for it. Hey, we'd like to be a charter school. And this is what we stand for in the type of curriculum. And they get a portion of the school's funds in order to do that. Now, what's great, funny about these charter schools is that they're, I would say, almost consistently able to operate under budget, which is great. And obviously, if we're going to stay objective here, because like I said, people hanging on to every word.
Yeah, word.
A charter school doesn't have to maintain, you know, the tens of thousands of students that the whole school district has to maintain. So obviously, financially, there's different burdens on the school district at large as opposed to a charter school. But seeing the situation we're in, i.e. the hard decisions the leaders have to make, wouldn't it kind of make sense then that us operating ourselves are always going to be out of budget? So we have these, what assets do we have? So we're talking business now. What assets do we have and how can we leverage them in order to get more income or revenue, or at least to decrease the amount of debt? We have buildings.
Yep.
Well, if you had a choice between the neighborhood school or a charter school with open enrollment, because, you know, I know that the certain charter schools, they have a lottery system and you can only come in, you know, kindergarten or first grade in order to go through the program. Because, you know, there's a set, they want to conform you to a set type of student in order for you to excel. But what if there were more charter schools, i.e. parents and community members coming together saying, let's educate our children this way with this type of curriculum to make it work. And they had open enrollment all year. Well, essentially it's just like a neighborhood school. But they're not dealing with the burden of the whole school district at large. And so what happens with us as a school board, we're more so like property managers, curriculum managers, where we're community members listening to input and seeing how we can streamline the process. And that kind of ties into what my vision of the school board has always been, which is government backing up because we're not doing a good job. And by good, I mean we have yet to get back to where we were pre-Department of Education, which is when we're the top 10% in the nation. So what if we decide to do the opposite of what we're doing and be less involved and instead just streamline the process for these other schools that are flourishing with the same money?
It kind of sounds like those other schools are flourishing because you have more parent involvement.
It was created by
you're
parents.
Not pushing the parents out. So when you have a charter school and the parents in the community are kind of like donating some time and sacrificing some time, right, for the education and the benefit.
Because they made
it.
It's like pride and ownership.
Yeah, your pride. You got some pride in it. You got some ownership. You got some, stakes in the game.
Yeah.
And then you have public schools over here, which are pushing, more towards the administration, and not the curriculum, focusing on the child. And
I would say focusing more so on federal funding. And federal funding comes with its own hoops in order to attain it. Like there's federal funding for feeding children with food insecurity. There's federal funding for fathers coming into school, like getting their participation. There's federal funding for, you can think of all the things that you might consider strange happening in the schools. There's most likely federal funding attached to that. And so if your desire as a district is to attain as much money as possible, then that's where your focus is, the federal money.
Oh, I'm sorry about
It's
that.
all good. But if your desire is to educate children, then there will be a pretty high chance that you'll kind of space yourself from the federal funding unless it falls in line with what you know that we need and just focus on the things that work. I remember, especially in our private school, charter school education life, whatever book that you had that year, you could give it to the person who's coming up the year after you and be
Yep,
like, "You're
hand
going
me
to use
down
this book."
books. Yep, I had books that had names in like
I'm
10 or
saying
15
like that
names
was
in it.
kind of like the best part. It was
Yes.
just like, hey, this book right here, there might be a note in it. There might be a little dog ear on it that goes, "This is what you're going to need for that test you're going to take." And you would think it would like.
I remember that. Yeah, there
I'm
were
saying,
some people.
I
Be
wish
like,
I
oh
kept
yeah,
these
question
books.
15, bro. That's a
Bradley,
fake
I want to
question.
say thank you so much, man. Your books helped out. I got great grades, and here I am today. But we're not able to do that in our neighborhood schools for the most part because we're always changing curriculum. Why? Because there's money attached to it, federal money. And so that's another hard decision leadership has to make is, are we going to continue looking for money, or would we like to start looking for results? Because results have already been found in books that we used to teach, because math hasn't changed, y'all.
Yep.
Writing hasn't changed. Reading, there's new authors, sure, but
I mean, history has definitely changed because I've seen
history.
books.
The whole
that they've
point of it
had-
is it's always going to change. That's the whole
Yeah.
point. We're living the story now. But if the gist of what we're trying to do, and let's say specifically in history, is have children critically think of the times to come and be able to compare and contrast the things that we have gone through prior to. If you don't know your history, quote unquote, you're bound to repeat it. If that is the intent, we could get that done.
I wish it was because I know kids that get out of school right now that have never been taught history, have never been taught civics, have never been taught, and that's real talk. Our producer right here,
Yeah.
okay, he's 19. He just graduated from East, right, or King Tech. Yep, King Tech. Okay?
Good education right there.
He did get a good education with
Yeah.
certain things.
Yeah.
Certain things were severely lacking, like how to participate in the system, what your civic responsibility is, anything to do with actual real history. They don't know.
And is that the district or is it an individual teacher? Because I had a teacher in a public school environment, gung ho about teaching us history. I mean, the history that's useful now and that we talk. He was
Yes.
doing that in a 10th grade environment. And that was an awesome teacher. And of course, now employer mindset, we need to find as many of those type of teachers as possible. The ones who are willing to teach history.
So
the way that actually
you
helps
talk
us
to
out.
a lot of teachers. I'm guessing in the Anchorage School District,
Mhm.
right? You're running for school board, and you also do substitute and volunteer work at a bunch of the schools. Are the teachers, in your opinion, do you think that they are being held back in any way from being able to teach their own curriculums?
Absolutely. Some definitely are. Others are willing to work the system. And, it just kind of depends on how seasoned there are as teachers. We have, new teachers coming in. They're learning about the administration. They're kind of taught to be like, oh, I don't want to cause any problems with anyone. I'm going to do exactly what they say. And then there's some teachers who've been in the game. Most of them, have been able to look at retirement for almost a decade now and be like, well, teaching is getting easier. So I could keep the foot on the pedal. But they also understand what's necessary for the student. And so I think it just depends on how seasoned the teacher is how much they're willing to actually teach. Because there is, for lack of a better word, there is an orientation period that just, I would say the first couple years of a teacher, maybe just a year. It just depends on how we'd say in the military, high speed they are.
So it's not really that the school board is not like allowing them to teach. They can still teach. Right?
Well, it's the superintendent's job, and this is kind of like where the power comes in, right? So the school board elected community members to essentially supervise what's going on in our schools. The superintendent is the boss, quote unquote, of all the schools. And each school obviously has a principal, and under that, and then obviously working in conjunction with the school board is the administration, and that's, just like, actual admin, IT, departments like that. And the superintendent, obviously they're all on one, and then the principals are reporting, and then under that, vice principals and teachers and so forth, right? So does the school board have the ability to hinder the superintendent and the teachers? Yes. Does the school board have the ability with the superintendent to hinder teachers' ability to teach? Yes. And so those are the facts of the matter is yes, a school board or majority of school board members can make it harder for teachers to teach the way they need to, right? But the way it goes, the hierarchy of it is school board, superintendent, principals, and then down to the teachers. Yeah.
Yep. So you're running for school board. What are some things on the school board that you think you could help improve in that area? Or do you have like a specific set of goals or platforms, that you want to, talk about real quick about like what you could do on the school board to sort of fix these problems with one, we have so many buildings, you know what I mean, that we're underfunded or not properly utilized, right? That we're paying a shit ton of money on, taxpayer money on, that aren't utilized to their fullest potential, right? So that's a lot of wasted income, in my opinion. These are just my thoughts.
Go ahead.
Two, the administration, they're cutting sports, cutting bands. They never talked about cutting the superintendent's budget or the administration buttons, or cutting down on how many principals and vice principals that we have at a school.
Yeah.
When
they did actually talk about that. It's just they ruled against it. Dave Donnelly, thank you so much for being on the board.
I do like Dave Donnelly.
Yeah.
I've heard him speak a couple times, and he's probably one of the more common sense, realistic, people, financially minded at least.
He's been tested to be borderline genius. That was one of his.
Really?
Yeah,
I mean, he does. He also, before we get to your platform, I actually heard him talk 2 weeks ago about what do they call them? The resource officers.
Oh yeah, SROs.
SROs. He was talking about how the schools are short,
undermanned,
14 or something. That there's only 14, and there should be like 20 something. They're short almost half of the resource officers that should be in the schools right now.
Only one school has a dedicated security resource officer, and that's Clark. And all the other schools, they kind of just have officers that come whenever they can.
That's crazy.
But that's based off the assembly not funding it. So, I mean, there's a lot of fronts.
Oh, so that's the assembly. That's the city. Okay, see,
there's a lot of fronts
to school board. I'm like, bro, you're spending $1 billion at the school board, bro. Now I'm like,
but the school board has the influence to tell the assembly, hey, we would like you to prioritize those SROs.
I don't think that the parents know, because I've talked to people about a situation that I heard that pulled down at Bartlett, where a kid brought a Mac 10, into school, and the principal, with how officer had to go confront this kid. Okay.
Yeah.
Damn. All right. As a parent.
Right. Did parents know about it?
And how nobody, these parents don't know about this and know that it was the, city's fault. Because to me, I went immediately to the school board, bro. I was like,
well, there's a guideline.
Bro, they have $1 billion budget almost. Like they're not paying for these officers. What's going on?
There's a guideline that says parents don't need to be notified unless parents ask for information. School board did make that. So,
it's both their faults. You got the assembly cutting off the funding, then you
assembly
got the
cutting
school
off the
board
funding, but the school board has the opportunity to go to the assembly and be like, hey, we'd like you to prioritize it. And so when they don't, that sends a message.
You sort of have it designed or in your plan to be able to go in and try to like fix with the school board overspending, budget cuts, right sizing, RSO officers. I guess, is there anything that you could do with the city, to make that, make that connection to pick up security? Because I feel like security to me is, education's first, but I want to make sure our kids are safe.
Safety's
right?
first.
I don't want a school shooting up here.
Yeah.
I don't want some dumb shit. And we hear about all the dumb shit that happens up here, of getting brought into schools and knives and guns into school. And if that's already happening and we don't have any safeguards or protection about it, we're kind of just incentivizing it.
I mean, we're vulnerable.
I know there's a lot of questions right there.
It was, but they're the same questions I've been answering for like the last 5 years. So now I get to show how to communicate effectively. Everyone has a specialty, or at least they should, on the board. And I don't want it to be misconstrued that my specialty is being a teacher, because I'm not. Instead, the specialty I want to utilize for the city's benefit is management. So when it comes to resources, I've heard firsthand accounts of the waste that is occurring. Well, there's 4 budgets. You've got the in-class budget, you got the things that support students like nurses and extracurriculars, you have building maintenance, and then you have administration. Our biggest pots of money goes towards in-class, and I want to say second is support. So those are the most important to me because our goal should be improving proficiency in reading, writing, math, and graduation retention. Now, where does graduation retention come in? I believe that's where the student support services come in. Those extracurriculars, the nurse, the PE teacher, all those are important to me because they're important to students in order to get us through. All of us have an experience in school, whether it be in some type of club or extracurricular that engaged us further in wanting to be in school. And so me wanting to preserve those, that means everything else, i.e. building and maintenance and administration, is liable to be on the chopping block, just being frank. So when it comes to the two budgets, or it sounds like four different categories of our budget, we need to find out where the waste is occurring and we need to decrease it, if not completely get rid of it. When it comes to things like technology, software and hardware wise, there might be a chance in middle school and elementary that we can cut that down quite a bit, especially if we're having kids on computers and tablets and whatnot. We could take that out and go back to pen and paper. It'd be a different cost. And I foresee it being a decreased cost. And then because accounting for the maintenance of software and hardware. And then when it comes to the ability to make our schools more safe, that's us approaching the assembly as a school board, as representatives of the community, and asking for this to once again be funded. But if we never approach the assembly, then we send a message that we don't need it. And that I do not believe is the community's intent, is saying, without saying, that we want our kids in a vulnerable position when it comes to active shooter situations. I know that's not what the city of Anchorage wants. And when it comes to change in leadership, which is necessary in our school board, that's going to be how any business does it. We need to replace the superintendent and find one that is able to improve education, has a track record of it, and has a good rapport with the previous district. I mean, you get a job, they call for references, they want to know what you were like. We should be doing the exact same thing. And make sure that this superintendent has worked with a school with at least similar nuances, i.e. student demographic or actual population or the way that we govern in their district as well when we adopt him or her as a superintendent. And then us individually as school board members making decisions that benefit the community. And so we're going to have to transition from this idea of unlimited federal money and instead focus and budget accordingly on being more self-sufficient, more city sufficient, state sufficient, because that will be a long-term hedge against any fluctuations of federal money coming in.
So you said something in there. The federal money that's coming in to this city,
Okay.
from, I'm guessing, the state, right? The state gets the federal money, and then the federal money comes from the state to the city, or does this?
It could be Department of
city,
Education, or it could be.
so they can just send it straight into the Anchorage School District, outside of legislation, right? And
Well,
then
yeah.
same thing with outside of Anchorage. So Anchorage, the city itself, the municipality, can put money into bonds, right, to pay into the school
Right.
system. The state legislation over here,
Plus, they set aside portion of property taxes to pay us.
property taxes.
So that's the city, right?
Yep. So the city, so our taxes, right, come from the city, come from the state, and also come from the Department of Education.
So city property taxes, a portion of that for the school district, plus bond proposals that pass. That's going to be money that goes to the school board. And then when it comes to the state, we have the base student allocation, or the BSA as it's known.
So when you're talking federal like reductions that we need to stop, fiending for, what part of those do we need to stop? Do we need to stop asking money from the legislation, or do we need to stop like trying to pull money from the Department of Education?
It's more so for me, the Department of Education. That would be the federal part. I'm always asked, should we increase BSA or should we decrease it? And it's a twofold answer. the one answer is, yeah, with more money you could do more stuff, but if you're mismanaging a little bit of money, you'll mismanage a lot of money. So even though for us, $900 would, I think, like balance us, the thing is next year we're set without any changes to be over budget once again that exact same amount. So either we hire no new teachers and we just keep it at that form, or there's just a high chance something will happen and we'll have to spend more, and therefore we're in a position where we have to ask once again for more money, which is what happens every year. So it would be better if we could learn how to operate within the city and state's contribution.
Yeah.
If we could master that, that's what a balanced budget. If we could master that being the ceiling, the new ceiling, and learning how to operate under that, then we're not in a position where we have to ask. And instead, the state could focus on not only the infrastructure things that need to occur, but it could focus on being like, wow, the schools aren't asking money of us. Let's at least create like a performance incentive just to give them a little bit extra because, we're rising up in our ranks. And so that's the further vision, but there's so much work to be done, i.e., the right sizing of the school district. The same way we say right sizing of government, the same scenario happening with our Anchorage School District. We just need to right size it.
I mean, I feel like if you came in, you right sized the district, you
Mhm.
actually put the money towards the students, educated the teachers, right, or promoted the teachers out to do more, like promote the better teachers that you're talking about, right? The ones that are actually teaching like the real history classes, not just the textbook, teachers that can teach. There's some teachers that can't. Some teachers that are really passionate can and do reach these kids daily. I've had both types of teachers in my life. A teacher that was just read the textbook, take the test, and then the other ones that actually like took the time to get you interested in that field of or that subject field that they were teaching. And uh
Well, I want to say when it comes to right sizing, um, literally, it would have to be us leveraging the relationships with other educational alternatives that we have at ASD, i.e., the charter schools, and we have academies of Anchorage, focusing more so on funneling students in that, and then us as essentially the building owners collecting rent and letting them do what they need to.
yeah, I love that idea.
Now, where does this put the teachers that are currently in neighborhood schools? I cannot see a future or even a history where good teachers were never not absorbed from other organizations doing something that they were doing anyway. I just see it being less public schools and seeing more charter and optional programs.
Community schools that parents and the community is actually getting involved and building up something they can be proud of.
I would say more so, like I said, not claiming to be a teacher, just business standpoint, they are good at what they do. Hence the results that they're getting. I mean, they're getting 60% proficiency. Not all of them, but some of them are getting like 60% proficiency in reading, writing, and math. That's great versus our 29, 38% in reading and writing. So they do good work. Therefore, it's me as a representative of the community saying, keep doing what you're doing, just include our kids as well.
Yeah. Oh, we're kind of everybody's kids, and I think that over the last 5 years, especially with the Biden administration, the leftist administration coming in, they're sort of trying to take that ability and give it to the teachers to, and the school districts to raise our kids. And uh, I don't personally agree with that. I think that the parents should raise your kids. The parents should be, have a choice on where their kids go and have an education. You shouldn't just be forced because of where you live to be like, oh, you have to go to this shitty school because I live in this shitty neighborhood you
Yeah.
know
The
um
equal opportunity is huge, and that's would be another form of funding that we can do as a school district in transportation is making sure a kid who has no opportunity, let's say on the east side, or the east side opportunity is already full, that we can transport them now to the west. And that's going to take, a professional in transportation
yeah,
to figure that out. But that's something we could fund. So imagine if we're not funding let's say an alternative reality. We're not funding essentially public education in the sense of we're the ones administrating, we're the ones choosing curriculum, but instead these schools that have already have a track record of making kids proficient are doing that. And we're just in charge of collecting rent and also creating a transportation system to aid these schools in what they're doing. Because now, if we're able to be in a position to help these charter schools, so instead of the charter schools having to, buy a bus and be the ones, or the alternative programs buying a bus and transporting kids. If we could take care of that, because we have all the buses anyway, and leverage, that relationship, and who knows, maybe they're paying rent for their transportation, some monthly type thing. Now we're running a better business. And so that's why I think leadership wise, we need just if not a couple business minded individuals to join the teachers and the past teachers, the past principals, the past human resource officers. If we could all be making a decision together, I think. And
I like that.
Really
I actually kind of love that idea of putting people that are in business in a position to run, what potentially is a business, because they're not running it as they would run a business. And I think that's why a lot of these government entities and these, the school boards around the world, around not Alaska, America, right? Are actually, we spend more money than any other country. We have the worst scores than any other country, is because we're throwing money at this stuff instead of throwing it at like a business.
My opponent, from her report that we all have to do, has no professional experience. So the assumption, if there's no professional experience, is have not held a job, or definitely have not created some type of business. And so with that comes the understanding, like, oh, well, how can we expect someone with no experience to somehow make decisions like a business person? It wouldn't make sense.
No, it wouldn't. Talking business plan, are you familiar with the high school's new skilled trade program that they're pushing through the high schools?
Yeah, the Academy's
the master plan.
Yeah.
One, I hate the name.
The Academies of Anchorage?
The
Academies of Anchorage?
Yeah, they call it the master plan, right? It came out, and it's they changed the name since I've called this out, but they brought it out, the superintendent, and they called it the master plan, and this was their trade school academics, where they're going to do the trades at all the high schools in town, and they're all limited depending on what school you're going to. If you're going to Bartlett, you're doing mechanics, woodworking, and nothing that is going to actually make you a leader. You're going to actually be a worker bee. But then if you go to Hillside, Southside, it's all the academics for taking people and turning them into the business leaders. Yes, okay. Yeah. To me, that's social, like social racism. Because the demographics is that we all know that Muldoon, East Anchorage is poor, Southside, Hillside, rich. Okay, that's how our state, our Anchorage has been set up for the entirety of my entire life. Okay. And when I see that, to me, that's offensive. When other people in these communities see that, or are opened up to, like, oh, all the schools don't have the same thing. No, they don't. To me, that's just setting up people to fail. Okay. Because you're not giving them a choice to, actually, in just my mind, you can correct me if I'm wrong, right? Because
I will.
Yeah, please. Don't ever let me just spew off some shit. That's why they call me Rants. You know what I mean?
I'm ranting, man.
I just
say
some shit. Yeah,
good. So when it comes to the Academies of Anchorage, it's a costly enterprise, and the idea of us having every program available at every school would be great, but we don't. We're once again talking about the funding, right? We can't afford it. So my thing is, I guess it's just business mind, is how to circumvent this obstacle. It's going to be here. There's more effort in removing the obstacle than it is just working.
It's not that I don't like the program. Okay. Yeah. Honestly, I love the idea of teaching our kids skills.
The thing you were highlighting is, like, not every program is available in each school. So how do we circumvent that? That's where, like I said, business mind, equal opportunity comes in the form of transportation.
Yes.
We have to create, that's going to be, to me, in the future of the Anchorage School District, once we focus on being landlords and community representatives, our probably biggest enterprise, our biggest budget item will just be transportation management.
Because I do see the fact that we built this education system up to send our kids to college right now, and boom, they go to college, never come home. Now we don't have the workers. We're having to import work in. We have export of out migration. Okay,
no. So that gets into the city and the state. So when it comes to the city, it's offerings. So where are the places that they're going? These are the same places you can go to a football game that has a nightlife, that has beautiful beaches, moderate temperatures. Those are type of things that we could manufacture if that was a focus, and that's where the city comes in. So I know from my experience with the Urban Design Commission, we have a whole 2035 plan of what we'd like Anchorage to be. And if I could summarize it, it's essentially the downtown area, which they're already starting, where it's like you can live at the very top of a story that's below you. You know, that's places like Seattle and Atlanta that are doing things like that.
We'll
So
totally have to talk about that because
so that's a city
I'm
offering.
against this 15-minute city and the 2050 project.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
You know,
But
that's real shit. That's a 2050 project is what
Yeah.
they call the STIPS project for transportation and development or urban development, that they're bringing the 10,000 homes in 10 years, right?
yeah,
Has nothing to do with the school board. That's all city stuff, right?
right.
But
Now
it
we're
does
getting into
affect
the
us.
weeds. Yeah,
It does affect you know, the school districts, in the fact that, to me, this is them trying to think of the future, right? So if you want to give them any credit at all for like thinking of the future, this, I will tell that, like, okay, maybe they are, because they're trying to keep the kids here, because if they get them out of high school with the ability to just start working,
yeah.
okay, would be the goal. You don't need to send your kid to college to, you know, make, you know, money and make it in this world now. You actually might, you know, make his life harder by going and getting a business degree, or
And that's why business members like the Academies of Anchorage, because it's just like perfect. You grow them, and we'll literally plant them immediately.
yeah, we'll have the unions ready to pick them up. You know, that's my other problem, is that when they get out of there, they go straight into the unions. Okay,
Yeah.
you kill private industry kind of, because you're just breeding these manufacturing, you know, tech workers, your plumbers, your heaters, your car techs, right?
But I see
love
private companies upticking their recruiting efforts for sure.
Yeah, and I would encourage them too, because, you know, that's what we need more of, is more private. You know, less union. I get the unions. I don't have to like them.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't like our
Collective bargaining.
school board unions. I don't like any of these nonprofit unions. I don't like
$53,000
you know,
we pay for
I'm
membership.
just not a big fan of unions up here, because I really feel
On the
like
school
that's
board.
what's choke holding our private industry right now
Mhm.
from being able to actually blow up and expand and allow people to have competitive projects up here. And that's why our stuff just slowly keeps getting more, because
And that's another thing. Might as well put it on wax as well. In regards to building and maintenance, we have to find more affordable solutions. That's the political way of saying that we need to look elsewhere when it comes to how we do our maintenance and how we do our school improvements. That doesn't mean that it's unregulated. It just means we need to have more competitive pricing.
Yes. That's a perfect example of what I think of a business person going into a school board.
Mhm.
Okay. Isn't like, oh, we have to use so and so because we've been using it for 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's bad business.
All right.
Unless they're really good at what they do.
And cheap, effective, right?
affordable.
Because the value
Exactly.
has to go with the value.
Mhm.
If you're getting a great quality product, okay, but then they're the only ones that are getting the contracts and they just keep bumping their prices up. Okay. The quality of work never changed. Okay.
Yeah.
The cost of that work changed. Okay. When you have somebody else that can come in and do the same quality of work over here, and they're going to keep, you know, a competitive price so they can beat against the person that's name branded over here. We should be allowing these people a chance to come in and show their worth, because these people need to realize that they can't just keep jacking the prices up.
And that's where the competition gets in. So I think a lot of people think when I say look for competitive price, it's like kick out the union, but that's not the case. The case is, if you've ever been in a homeowners association, or if you ever had a big project where people bid on it, people really consider what they're bidding when they know there's competition. But if there's no competition, then you're setting up effectively a monopoly, which is illegal in a lot of business senses. But here in politics, it's somehow okay, because we'll set something that says projects that are over $1 million can only be utilized by this company, which is a union. That kind of sounds strange when almost every project costs that much.
Mm-hmm.
So we then have to now create policies where it's like, no, we need to make this competitive even for the $1 million projects, or even for the $10 million projects.
I'd say for the $100,000 projects, bro.
Oh, essentially all projects. If I had to be changing something, all projects should have some type of competitive.
If not,
bidding.
then sign me up. How do I go get a quick little $100,000 gig from the school district, bro? Because
as long as you go through all the parameters, and that's the thing about legislation in general. When you legislate things, I guess there's rationality, but then there's some bad apples, sour apples that mess it up for the rest of everyone. So then we have to legislate. So looking forward to the future, if we're going to have competitive bidding, then we now have to come together to create the requirements. And those requirements can't just cater to our current person, because that's kind of what happens. Is like I come in as a politician and say, hey, we're going to have more competitive pricing. We're going to have a bidding process. Well, the bidding process might pass with all the remaining school board members, but the requirements may essentially only cater to unions. Let's say in this example, have I really done anything? No. But as a politician, I'll be like, well, I changed the bidding process. And it's like, you didn't change anything.
Yep.
So I actually want to see things change in regards to if we're going to have more competitive pricing for our projects and whatnot, then we need to create requirements that operate and help out possible possible people who are bidding on these projects in the private as well as in the public sector.
I like it. I guess, man, we've covered a lot. Do you want to cover any of the recent stuff that's just happened with the school board? We have the cuts to ban sports, the extracurricular activities, and then they also just cut the Reich. What's that?
Oh, the Wrigley Shul.
Yeah, you want to talk about that? That was just a recent decision. I mean, that's up to you. These are just some topics that I know.
I do that because of just how much I've had to engage with people online. I would say hopefully people are enjoying the fact that I don't see it in other political campaigns where politicians are directly engaging with people if they have something positive or negative to say. Most times,
I do see you. I do see Alex. So you two are the only two candidates running in
the trenches.
any elected position right now, even assembly or anything. Yeah. Okay? You guys are the only two candidates running for school board right now that actually comment back and talk back on your profiles on social media, your websites, your emails. Real talk. Nobody else emails back or comments back or tries to defend or
I noticed very early that the strategy, it seemed like, for people I was running against or just other people in general, was just to block and delete people, and that's censorship. I guess it's just against my political compass of the whole censorship idea. I believe wholeheartedly, and I say it so many times to detractors or trolls or whatever the name nomenclature is, that everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Now, the thing about it is, as an inspiration, or at least as a template, I make sure if I have an opinion, I'm attaching sources to it and I have them readily available. So it's always underwhelming when I see people who'll be a detractor or troll, and it's fine to disagree, but I can tell based on our conversation, you didn't look at the sources. Yep. I could tell maybe you didn't finish the video, or I could tell you didn't read the whole thing and just consider both sides. And I understand it might be intrinsic for me, natural for me, but not for someone else. But how much better our dialogue would be if, as much as I'm looking at your side of the story, that you would look at mine. And people, when they call in politics, it's funny.
I get it.
They'll call me and they have so much to say, and I'm listening. And at the same time, and I guess this is the inside thoughts of Mark Anthony Cox, I'm thinking, I wonder if they'll ask me my side of the story as opposed to whatever catalyst that's just created. It was like, I wonder if they will. And they don't. Majority of times they don't. And that's fine. It's totally fine. It's just that I've learned, especially in these last 5 years, it's better to engage with the trolls or the detractors than it is to just let them, because I have dogs, I say they're just like kind of lifting a leg to your profile. And it's just like, okay. Like, what was the point of that?
Yeah, what was the point? Most of it is people's different opinions on sources they deem sources, right?
Well, that's what is a source, right? So for me, I have to, in this public space, have credited sources. But for other people, I've learned there's data, which would be my credible source, but then there's personal experience, which I can't fault you for having personal experience, and then emotions, and these seem to be the average person's credible sources. But the thing is, all I'm asking, that's what I think makes me a good listener, is that I'm an active listener, and while you're talking, I'm considering either sources that I've seen that compare to what you said, or I'm considering sources that definitely say opposite of what someone is saying.
Yep.
And so then as I'm listening and I'm like, okay, I'm doing the research for you if you didn't already do the research. But then when I find out, oh, we're in Emotionville is what I call it. If we're in Emotionville, then I'm like, okay, let me just be a respectful person that my mom raised me to be. Like, let me make sure not to pay back the not discontent, but it is discontent, but to pay back the disrespect that you're giving me. I'm not going to do that to you. Instead, I'm literally going to be, what would Jesus do in this scenario, and be like, okay.
I really try. I've that's actually something I've been working on for months.
All of us will work on it for life.
They don't call me rants for a reason, man. 'Cause sometimes shit just comes out.
Flip switch.
I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said
I
that.
don't do
I'm
that.
not apologetic for anything I said because, again, free speech absolutist, if you don't like it, then prove me wrong or change my mind,
Someone asked me, when I see these people, and this is someone else speaking, not me, but they said, when I see these people, want to just chop them in the throat. Don't you ever feel like that ? And I was like, no. And it's God honest truth. I don't feel like that to any people, especially when we're kind of getting in situations of like cyberbullying or whatever, where they're trying to threaten or intimidate. I feel threatened by no one. Like he said, I'm a big dude.
Yeah.
No one online threatens me or even in person. But
yes.
Instead, what am I thinking? I feel so sorry for most people because we would have such an awesome conversation if you decided to compound your emotional with either personal experience or data. Because you would find out, and I think people do find out when they see the posts with like 46 and 6,400 something comments, that I will talk to you and the whole time respect you. And it's not AI or one of my aides talking to you. Like in my race right now, when most people run, especially in the Democrat side, they have some type of, in general, they have like a group. And so the person I'm running against is utilizing Ship Creek Group. And, on her, her list of people working for a campaign, there's 7 folks. So think about 7 minds just crafting away, can we get the edge on Mark Anthony Cox? But then there's just me, y'all. In my campaign, it's the V show. And I hope, and I can't really hope, which is why I have to tell people, hey, you have to understand the mountain that we're climbing here. You have to understand some of the resistance that we're going to go through. You have to understand how much work has to be put in from this candidate standpoint. Because, I'm the one editing the website. I'm the one creating the shorts and reels. I'm the one that's creating the script. Most of it's not scripted. I'm the one doing the research. I'm the one talking to you. I'm the one raising 3 kids and still keeping a happy home with my wife. These are things that, if given more money, essentially, we do it in our own lives, right? If you are tired of cleaning your own house, you will hire someone to clean your own house. And so in my mind, I'm not saying it's true, I'm running, and for the past years, running against candidates who all they have to do, and like I said, this is in my mind, I would say subjectively, that because they've hired someone to be the treasurer, i.e. count the donations, make sure you write down the occupation and the employer, the amount deposited. You have someone who does your social media messaging. You have someone that writes your scripts for you, or at least helps brainstorms with you on how to write them. You have someone going out to fundraise, and you have someone who is making sure you're following all the is APOC, but Alaska Public Office Commission, all those rules. And then you have someone who's just your manager. They're just there to help you. Or if they're at your event, they're like, hey, do you need some water? I brought some snacks for you. And then the candidate, right? In my mind, I'm thinking, this candidate, all they have to do is just show up. That sounds cool. But I believe we're in a time now where people would rather the hard worker because of how genuine each experience is. When you see one of my shorts, it's not some cheesy thing I'm trying to like trick people. It's like, I am trying to feed you information in 30 seconds or less.
Well, just think about that. You're doing all of this already, okay?
Yeah.
And then the school board member that you're going to go in front of is just going to show up to the school board doing the same shit with the same effort that they put into their campaign, which was nothing.
I wasn't even thinking about that, but yeah, the effort is minimal.
Because the minimal. So if they put minimal effort, but they had maximum results because they had all these other people working for them, that's not them in power or in leadership, that's them delegating their responsibilities out to a team, produce the same value that you're providing as one man.
We might
So
have to
when
clip that.
I
'Cause that's
look
how
at
good
who
this
I
is.
want to vote for,
Yeah.
okay, is I really want to vote for that dude that's doing what you're doing. Because
Yeah.
when you get into office, I'm gonna hope that you're bringing that
The
same
same work ethic.
work ethic in. Where I look at these other candidates that are coming in, and I'm like, they're not doing anything. They have a social media team. They got a
I won't go on
secretary.
wax saying they're not doing
okay.
anything.
Well, I mean,
but they're it's
yes,
it's
the
definitely something
concept.
that we could think about objectively, that they are definitely doing less than what I'm doing.
Yeah, and many other people that are the small, underdogs, how they call you,
Yeah.
and those are the people that I think that we need to push into office now. Those are the people that I'm encouraging, the undeclared independents, all these people on social media that tune in to listen to my rants, even though I'm kind of a dumb, uneducated, unsophisticated kind of guy.
He's got that on the script, but it's not true.
I'm just a real person that
Yeah.
is trying to understand what's going on in this crazy world we live in and why we haven't gotten any change.
Can I tell you a mind frame that
Yeah.
I've adopted over these 5 years? You'll see it in my income reports or whatever, that it seems like right up to election, that's when the funding finally comes in. But it's kind of strange because it's just like, well, didn't you need it at the very beginning?
Yes.
But I think in a group of people who are looking at a candidate and going, are you going to make it? Whether you're new or an incumbent, they need some type of surety. And so I would love to share for potential candidates of offices that if your intention on running is to be loved by everyone from the time you start to the time you finish, you're going to have a rude awakening. Your intention as a candidate should be, I'm willing to do whatever it takes, legally, ethically, and morally, to get the voters educated on what's going on and how I'm willing to improve it solution-wise. And if no one else helps me, supports me, tells me keep going, then I have enough, what do you call it, self-esteem, self-respect, or momentum to be like, I'll do it all by myself. But you can't do it with, I guess, hate in your heart, because it kind of messes up the whole political process. We do this to be of service to the community. That's the public servant aspect of it. So mindset-wise, my mindset has always just been, even in business, I'll get it done. If we don't get an investor for this project, I'll do it myself.
Get it done.
Like either way, I'll get it done, because what's funny, especially in business, is like, as soon as the product is done, people are like, wow, this is beautiful, this is gorgeous. You should have told me about this earlier. Like, and no matter what, it always happens.
We make clips and we do videos and stuff, and then they're like, well, man, you should have told me we would have, donated to this. And I'm like, well, it's already here and done. Like, we needed this money beforehand, but if
the baby's
our next
born,
project's coming up, and that's that's sort of the whole journey of growing a business, is putting
entrepreneurship.
Yourself in,
this is the journey of entrepreneurship for sure.
It's an uncomfortable situation that you get you get into, and it's how do you grow in these uncomfortable situations? And you running for politics is definitely an uncomfortable situation to put yourself in, because no one's forcing you to do this. Okay, you're doing this because you care about the kids, you care about the future of Anchorage, you care about the future of Alaska, and where we go from here. Not only from like a tax perspective and a financial, physical responsible, but also like the safety and the security of making sure that our children are going to get educated. Yeah, and I like that a leader, an entrepreneur, a hardworking dude is stepping up to fill this role, versus the people that I see as just the normies, the normal politician people. Okay, the bred in people that are polished and built.
Is this a farm raised fish versus a wild
yeah, right. That's exactly what it is, dog. We got some wild Alaskan fish over here, and then we got your candidate over here that's farm fish in a factory. Comes out with the team. And they gently set it into the ocean. Into the river. It's swimming out to the ocean. It's like, bro, I was out in the ocean, bro. You know what I mean? I'm coming back home right now. And you guys are about to get eaten. Okay. And that's what I want. I want that Alaska grown frontiersman, mentality to come in here and make a change. And I'm just tired of the status quo, really. And if I keep getting the status quo, then that's what I'm gonna. That's why I rant. Is when I get people that are running for office that are the status quo. I'm like, well, these are why people don't show up to vote.
Yeah,
real talk. If people like you stop running for these races, then the turnout will just continuously go down. Because that's what they want. They don't want people that are firing up this group of what I call the undecided, independent, politically hurt party. Okay, that is sort of migrated away. It's not that we don't care and we don't turn out to vote because we don't care. It's we're tired of voting for people that do the same shit.
Yeah.
We're tired of putting our name behind someone and saying, hey, this is a really good dude. And then they get into the school board and then, flip on us. It's like,
no,
bro.
or what's the term?
And then you're like, oh, well,
like, why?
Now I can't vote next year because my vote doesn't matter. Well, your vote does matter. And we could see that if people would, turn out to vote, you would see that your vote matters, but we've sort of been politically hurt. And that's why I'm like doing these shows, because these people that want to vote, like you said, like they've been, knowing this election's been coming up for 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's been no news on it. And they're like, oh,
can I tell you why I think there's no news on it?
Yeah, shoot.
I think because there's so much, at least on my page, I can't speak for every other candidate. There's so much information that if a majority of the city were to watch it, read it, dig into it themselves, that they may very well vote differently than they've done in times past.
100%. Okay, that's the point.
Because
is that they should be responsible for this marketing campaign of informing people, but they're not. So it just requires me to come out and put in my little 2 cents of like, well, this is what I read here, and this is what I read here, and holy shit, like I think we're heading in this direction. Maybe I should warn people.
And that's the opportunity right now of podcasters and bloggers, is that when the regular news, because there's a chance that they're just on a set schedule where they're used to, well, they're not going to vote until April 1st, right? April 1st or 4th is usually the days we vote. So they might be on a schedule, just not even considering the fact that 48 hours from now, everyone's going to get a ballot and essentially could just make a decision. And they're just going to be, it's going to be like a week from now, if not next week, they'll start talking about it. It's like, I already voted.
Yeah, I'm gonna start going really hard on March 11th. I'm gonna go door knock. I'm gonna go do some activist meetings around town, and just make sure that I get at least 10,000 phone calls out over the next week to get people to turn in and vote.
Yeah.
Will it help? I don't know. But it's something different.
One cannot do without trying.
Nobody's doing. Okay, it's going to hit all these political people. Aiden will be blowing up the rest of our shit. For candidates that we feel should run, even though some of the assembly members that are running haven't reached back. One, I don't do bipartisanship. Okay, I hate the word
by that?
bipartisanship with running campaigns. Okay, that's how we got stuck with our assembly, and our assemblies are super socialist.
Are you saying nonpartisan, or are you saying bipartisan on purpose?
Like bipartisan races, right? This is our nonpartisan race. I don't know. What do they call Anchorage elections? They say it's not political.
Yeah, nonpartisan.
Okay, nonpartisan.
Yeah.
Okay, so my bad. I misspoke there. Okay.
Well, I was just confused. I was just like...
so not nonpartisan. Misspoken. Bipartisan means that both of them working together.
Yeah.
Okay. I hate this nonpartisan shit because they're not nonpartisan. They're pushing an agenda. They're pushing political beliefs on either side.
I made a video about that, which is getting a lot of views. And what was it, episode 10 maybe, where it's like the connections between the Democrat Party and the NEA and the Anchorage School Board. So, and that's one of the...
Do you see that?
That not only do I see it, but I was willing to finally put it on wax, because a lot of candidates who run, whether they be conservative or liberal, they act like moderates.
Yes.
They just go, I'm whatever. It's like a chameleon. They go into a spot and they go, whatever you believe in is what I believe in too. Will you please vote for me?
And I will compromise to make things happen.
But instead, like this time around, it was just like, why not just stand on your beliefs, but be factual, be respectful, and, do what it takes in order to reach them. And so that's what I would say that in itself is what we're doing differently. And all it costs is a lot of effort. But it's worth it if now you have people who are like, what? That's happening?
Yes.
What?
100%.
Because, it's funny. I go, it's a nonpartisan race, but 6 out of 7 board members have been donated to by the Democrat Party. And, various unions usually are just voting for the Democrat Party.
Mhm.
And then the NEA and the AEA, its members, or in the political action committees, are voting for the 6 out of 7. So then it's like, wait a minute, 6 out of 7 people, it's called nonpartisan. And you would think if it's nonpartisan, maybe we as a city will vote 50-50 and there'll be balance. But if 6 out of 7 are the Democrat Party funded, as well as the NEA and the AEA and its members funded, it doesn't sound nonpartisan at all.
Yeah,
and then I haven't
why
even done the
people
research
don't
on the assembly, so it would only be an assumption. But if it were to mirror that, then we could say objectively, our city is being guided by liberal beliefs. We can say that. Because I can pull up your financial
they're like,
report.
"Oh, you're crazy. This is a nonpartisan race." I'm like, "No, I
Pull
don't
up
care
the financial report.
what you call it."
Right?
Yes, I don't care what you call it. It's rigged blue. Okay, I'm calling balls and strikes. If you guys don't like it, they can. Hey, any of you guys can change my mind or prove me wrong. You guys are welcome to come on my show and sit in this chair next to me and argue the schematics of how I think this is a leftist, communist, socialist, Marxist takeover of like Anchorage, Alaska, with these nonpartisan races. Okay, that's my opinion. Okay,
but even if it were partisan, this is just a thought. Then that's why in the very beginning I was like, it really doesn't matter someone's voter registration card if it says Democrat, Republican, Independent, Undeclared, Nonpartisan.
Let's vote right for wrong.
Let's just vote what you want to vote. Because I have people call me, and I assume, based on the conversation, that they probably are on the Democrat liberal side of the spectrum. But it's funny, what connects us right now? It could be school choice. It could be leadership not making this, not doing what it said it would do, and therefore now it's affecting them personally. And so now, partisanship aside, they're like, you wouldn't do that, right? Explain to me why you would make this decision. And then, of course, we bump into a topic where it could be like the topic of parent involvement in schools. And it's like, and I could feel it just based on conversation. Yeah. Oh, I lost you here. Well, we can agree to disagree. Because think about it, it's a test, right? Mm-hmm. I got 9 questions right. But on the 10th question, I got it wrong. Does that mean I failed on a test? No. To a voter? Could be. But what benefit do I get lying to this voter, getting into office, and then breaking his or her heart?
Yep.
Because now him or her is going to be the main detractor or despondent of all my future messaging. Mm-hmm. And I believe, because I don't know officially, because I have yet to get to know a troll or detractor well, I think that's how they start. Is someone promised them the world and then they lied, and so now everyone's a liar.
Yeah, I think it's a targeted, a targeted event that happens with anybody that goes public. Anybody that runs for public service, I feel like they're just going to come after you. Like for that one question. Because they feel like everyone you should be perfect. And I'm not holding you up to be a perfect person. Okay, no one's perfect.
I changed the. It's not that I changed it. It's literally the definition of perfect. It has to do with the etymology of it has to do with maturity. And so when I had that in my mindset of, what is a perfect candidate, I can say, especially the last 5 years, I've matured as a candidate. So if that makes me perfect to someone, then it would indeed be objectively justified.
I like it. All right. Well, I think we covered pretty much everything. Can't really think of anything. I read through some of those comments last night, talking about the emerging schools. We went over that. We went over right sizing, charter schools, school choice.
Yeah, streamline the process.
The high school master plan.
Academies of Anchorage.
We went over the budget cuts, that they're making with the state and the BSA allowances.
If you give more money to someone who can't financially manage, we can't expect improved results. There has been no objective analysis of our increased spending and our increased spending producing better results. So
if you want better results, and you want better finance judgment, okay, you vote for my boy over here, Mark Anthony Cox, running for school board seat B. Okay.
The
I
man, the
endorse
myth.
you. I mean, little as that much says, you know what I mean? Because I love your shit. You know what I mean?
Appreciate
And
it.
I'm an American patriot. You know, realist. One A absolutist. 2A protects my 1A. And
Sounds like I'm reading a receipt right now.
yeah. And man, I love what you're doing with the city. I wish I would have got involved sooner with this politics because I would have been on your train years ago. Actually,
Everything
I've
happens for a
seen your
reason.
name on.
Yeah.
I might have actually voted for you once or twice. I sort of just flip a coin for that stuff back in the day, and I realized that, man, that's the problem.
This is what the city
bro.
is
That's the
dealing with.
problem. Is that I'm sitting over here flipping coins for name recognition. Man, I
like that one guy's sign.
I might be the problem. Okay. So then I look at it and I'm like, yeah, that is the problem. If all we're doing is going and voting for a name recognition, okay, and we don't know the values or the mission behind the people that we're pushing, then we're not doing anything.
Multiply that by 10,000. And
yes.
there you
And
go.
so that's why I'm trying to take people that are voters and turn them into activists so we can get to know people like you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go out and reach out to people that are non-voters and just say, hey, man, you got to start voting, And if we can take all of the people in Anchorage right now that do vote and turn them into activists, okay, we can turn a little rebellion, into something positive, okay, because that's what we basically are. We're rebelling against the system by not voting, but in reality, we're just helping the system.
There you go.
Okay, and that's what I want to wake people up to is that if you hate the system so much that you won't vote in it, okay,
you don't hate it enough yet.
Then you're actually simping on them.
Yeah,
okay,
helping them out.
And you're supporting these people. And if you don't like that, I'm sorry. That's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow when you realize that everything that you hate because you're like, I won't vote because I don't believe in a party. But then you not participating on the other side of that coin is actually why we're here.
I think in psychology they say something like, you become what you hate.
You almost have to become what you hate to kill what you hate.
There you
go. Like you just said, I need to become an NGO or nonprofit. Like we were talking earlier.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, bro, I hate NGOs and I hate nonprofits, bro, like so much. Like,
but do it to do good work.
But yeah,
you
got to do it to good work. You got to do it to get that name recognition, to be able to represent a group of people, to be able to allow you these these chances to actually talk and sit down and meet with people. Because that's a huge get in the door card. When you have that ability, but at the same time, it's like, oh man, I'm gonna have to join the dark side. Oh,
but you're not. That's the thing. You get to create your own group when you do stuff like that. And the thing is, it's all about intention. So when choosing board members in general, like not even just school board, but for any business, you want to find people who are married to the mission. Because unfortunately, in anything, you have people who are married to money, who are married to prestige.
Mm-hmm.
But how many will you find married to the mission? And so there's this concept of there's three people you meet in your life: confidants, constituents, and comrades. Yep. So you won't have many confidants in your life, people you can confide in. Constituents, you'll have many. It doesn't necessarily mean they're reliable. There's a high chance that they will trade you for the next opportunity. It's just a constituent. Then you have comrades. They hate who you hate. They're just there for you for that mission. Do not confuse them. Do not confuse them for an opportunist. Well, they are opportunists. And definitely don't confuse them for a confidant. If you can recognize that in board members and people and even in voters, you'll be swimming.
I love that. That is great advice. And with that, I think we're going to wrap this show up today. I appreciate you coming on. We'll probably do one more of these before the election's over on the 1st. If you're cool with that, just come back. We might just do a group chat with you and Alex and just like get together and we can just, talk school and talk, we'll break that down. Because this was more of like, I wanted to get to know you personally, right? Yeah. This is a real organic conversation. There weren't, some scripted stuff. Wasn't trying to get you, wasn't trying to, push some stuff out on you.
But there should be more things like that. I look forward to eventually there being maybe like, even if I have to set it up, like debates again.
I will, dude.
Most of these forums are just softball things. They either give us the questions before or they're asking questions that time, but there's no candor between the candidates. And it seems disingenuous of the political process. Because people want to know, do you work well with others? And how do you deal with high tense situations? But along the campaign trail, you experience none of those. So how are voters actually getting the right information?
Again, I think it just comes back to sources. People read something and then they don't want to look at the other side of the photo,
Yeah.
or other side of the page, and then we're having to play back and forth on people's things like, I read it here, I read this here, I read this here,
Yeah.
I seen this over here, I had a conversation with this person, sent me, you know. To me, you have to ask everybody, talk to everybody. The problem is that all these people that I would love to get into debate you, right? They wouldn't show up to step up and sit in front of a camera. That's the issue.
Not until, and this is what I think, not until we create a platform so, what do you call it, pleasing enough to the general population where it kind of becomes like a necessary evil, where it's like you have to show up to rants. Why? Because voters are going to look for the rants debate, and if you don't show up, it's just going to look bad.
Yeah, because I'm gonna have a real debate. I'm not gonna have no fluff questions, some moderator, Robert Rules of Order shit. You know what I mean? We're gonna have like real conversations, man. If stuff gets said, stuff gets said. Like we should be real accountable with it.
I feel like if you were to do a debate, it would absolutely be loose for sure.
I mean, I think I'm comfortable with holding debates. That you see me do my radio stations and my spaces.
For sure.
I'm pretty cool with letting people say their piece, right, and argue back and forth, right, as long as you keep it under a couple parameters. One, don't ever take the Lord's name in vain, right? But I'm cool with cursing. Okay. Two, I don't do any disrespect. If you're cursing, that just that's how you talk and format some of your language, because some people do, right? Then that's cool, but don't ever bring it in a derogatory or a negative fashion towards anybody in the room, right? Because I do cuss. I've been trying not to cuss as much, but I cuss like a sailor. I'm sure you guys have heard me on my spaces. I say some F-bombs. I drop some B words, but they're not in a derogatory statement towards another person.
Just language.
I don't ever try to disrespect anybody, and third, if you're gonna say something that's actual, like a fact, like you got to be able to drop the receipt for it. You can't come in and say this is fact and then use the trust me, bro.
UC 108.30.
That is my biggest pet peeve. Okay, because anything that I talk about or drop on, I can post the articles and the white papers and the presentations that I formulated my ideas from.
And that's what gravitated me towards you, is that it's just objective. I'm maybe because it's the business side of me. I prefer objective over subjective, but I understand they all have a place. If you're not emotionally charged towards something, then you won't even take the time to do objective analysis. So I understand it has a place, but man, how much better a conversation is if you have the receipts. Because now you could look at a report and I could look at a report and it's just like, well, this is how I saw it. And that's communication to me, especially in these political races. In general, communication is a way how we enter each other's brain. If you read a sheet of paper and I read a sheet of paper and we said nothing to each other, then there's no communication to be had. I'll never know what you think on your side of it, and you'll never know what I think. But as soon as we open our mouths, all we're doing is expressing what we're thinking. We're opening that vault of what's going on in my head.
Yes.
And now we can have a conversation. So most times when I'm dealing with the detractors or trolls, I go, by the way, I would have never known what you thought about me until you said it. So thank you for that. Because now I'm not in the dark.
Yes. Like you're not saying it behind my back. Now it's in my face.
Okay.
Now I can, choose. Okay, which is my right? I can choose to engage, right? Or just be informed by that.
Yeah, just be informed. I understand where you're coming from.
Yes.
Understanding comes from communication. Yeah.
And I hate that, people think that I have to contact you to make it sure, right? I love the fact that when you make a post and someone comments on it, okay?
Yeah.
Now you took that responsibility as that was them contacting me.
Exactly.
Okay, right? Because you're on social media, that they basically sent you an email or a forward request and said, hey, I'm calling. I love the fact that, you respond back on that, because a lot of politicians don't got the balls
they
to do
delete it, and it not only is it censorship, but it's also disingenuous. And plus, you're just reaffirming the things that make me want to run. You are the type of person that will not respond to your community members who voted you or who did not vote you in. Therefore, that should negate it. There's not a rule or law on it. This is just, I guess, my political compass. It should negate you from being a representative if you're not willing to talk to people. Like, you got to understand, if you're going to be a politician, your face is out there whenever you go to the grocery store. They know who you are. Whenever you go to the DMV, they know who you are. Whenever you go to some state or city thing, they know who you are. So are you willing to actually live out this life? And it helps, at least if you're a stable person and you're a person who recognizes what's more important than your emotions.
Yep.
And because then people can do what they want to do, which is reach you. I saw the guy who created email. It was an @ sign, and the @ sign was the fact that he created a code to share files, and it was just within the network. And he was like, well, if I could just share files with the network, if I switch this code up a little bit, I can share this file to someone else's network. And that's when the first email was created in like 1971. It was just the idea of, it's one thing for me to have this thought within myself or just within my group or network. But if I share this thought to other people, now we can have more communication or better communication. And that's what politics is. It used to be, we used to just be able to be self-sufficient in our own homes. But then we realized we had some collective problems, some community issues. And it's like, wait a minute. What happens if my solution for what I do in this house would help the person in that house? Let me share it. And so that's supposed to be, at least from my analysis of history, from what was it, Democratic Republic, Republic, because we're Republic. And we vote democratically.
Yeah, and we vote democratically.
That's the problem with the party names right there. But yeah,
it's crazy.
With that concept, it's that we used to just be able to manage our own homes, and there were some people who were better at managing their own homes, and they recognized that there was some mutual issues, and we could solve it better together. Two are better than one. And so now here we are, 2025, going for Anchorage School Board, and it's the same scenario. There's families in need of help educating their children. And they could do it the hard way by, being more educated themselves, acquiring people that cost an arm and a leg in order to supplement whatever they don't know, or they can go to this public school system. Obviously, I believe families have an inherent gift, ability, God-given to teach their kids. But depending on how you want to steer your life, you utilize the public education system or the private education system. Our goal is, if we are going to be paying into a system that is going to be utilized by someone anyway, why not it be the best system? Why not it be an affordable system? And why not give everyone, kids, parents, an equal opportunity to it? If we do that, we've done everything we need to do. And the thing is, even if it all goes away, then we just go back to doing what we were doing anyway, which is taking care of our own family.
Yep. Word. Well, I think that's a great place to shut it off for this Sunday afternoon. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure that you get out, talk to your families, vote for Mark Anthony Cox, School Board Seat B. Folks, we need change in Anchorage School District, and you can be that change. Make sure you have your family, your friends, your grandparents, your neighbors all mail in their ballots. Let's get a record turnout this April 1st for ballot initiatives, ballot assembly members that are coming out. I recommend that you vote no on all bonds, but that's just my thing. $110 million is not the way to start off another year in debt with $400 million in previous debt. So if you want a better change, you want to save your taxes, you want cheaper property taxes, vote no on the bonds. If you want to help better children save taxes on the education system, vote Mark Anthony Cox.
Thank you.
And we'll catch you next time on Alaskan Rants.